kar.
Kargil Diwas, I cannot stop smiling because I have these greats with me after a long time together. Komsem Bhai, Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, Jai Hind.
The fresh air is the fresh air of Northeast, the first Lieutenant General of Northeast. He has weathered all storms in Imphal. He's been part of the Burmese army. He's gone and camped there with the Burmese army. So great people. We have Vice Admiral Muralidharanji after a long time. I wish we can have many such meetings before anything like Kargil happens again. And the Siachen, the glacier man, Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, the man who set foot in 1984, I think, 1984.
Yeah, you're right.
So see, my memory, though I've completed almost 250 summits with you people like you, these things have had an indelible impression on my entire thought process. I don't even forget the years when Lieutenant General Kulkarni, and I never prepare for a show. Brigadier Apte will be, vouching for my statement. Lieutenant General Consul Himalaya Singh. We also got Veer Chakra Vijeta of the Kargil War, Umesh Singh Bawa, the man who had to convince his troops to, go against the, in front of the fire and go uphill, with all the motivations that was required for them to take bullets straight on the chest. Veer Chakra Vijeta Umesh Singh Bawa on board Kargil Diwas. Today the theme is, last year also we celebrated as part of Amrit Mahotsav. We will be joined by more guests as we move along because a lot of them have got TV programs. We are not a TV channel, but yes, we have a credibility which is probably something which we are all very proud of. Now, over the last 18-20 months, we've gathered friends like you. A lot of people have joined the bandwagon, almost 1,000 plus patrons to the summit and to the forum. Amrit Mahotsav has been extended by another 1 year, up to August 23. Kargil, there was learnings, the misses. When I spoke to Air Chief Marshal Tipnes, he said, I am not willing to speak on this because there were a few misses from the Air Force perspective, mincing no words, but not letting into controversy. We will definitely try and delve into the learnings of the Kargil war. We know what all went right. We know how we won the war. We know how Pakistan had to take it, back on their face. But then, why did it happen? And what shouldn't have happened? Those are the issues which probably from the top brass of the services. We have services from Naval, Muralidharanji on board today. We have the Army people with us. Air Chief Marshal Raha should join us by 5:30 or 6 because he said he'll be traveling. So we'll have a fair amount of representation from the Air Forces also. Let me start with the opening remarks, as always, from the great, somebody, who we all consider as general of our forum, Brigadier Ajit Apte. As is a great man, great speaker. Apte ji, opening remarks, Kargil Diwas, Vijay Diwas.
Thank you, Amit. Really honored. I was there in the morning for some other Kargil event where I met General Lakhwinder, the architect of the artillery battle. I met my course-mates, General Amarnath Hall, who was commander of 56th Brigade in the Dras sector. And of course, we got General Consul Himalaya, welcome. And of course, another great stalwart, General Sanjay Kulkarni, whom I know well. I was there for his book release a few years ago at the hands of the Defense Minister in Pune. Sanjay undoubtedly was the pathfinder for Kargil, for Siachen. He is the one who laid the foundation, and full marks to you, Sanjay. We are still fighting the highest battlefield in the world. Then, of course, a very dear friend, Vice Admiral Muralidharan, and hats off to you, Brigadier Bawa. Great honor getting a Veer Chakra in the Kargil operations. Well, we've got stalwarts. We all know what happened in Kargil, and I'm not going to dwell on that. Though the Kargil,
the man missing out is Vice Admiral, the great, Chief of the Naval Academy, Vice Admiral Muralidharan. He is a fantastic speaker as well.
I know. So I have met Admiral Muralidharan long back, if I'm right, right, Admiral? So what happens is that I'm not going to, in my opening remarks, spell on what were the disaster points, but in simplicity, I'll just say this much. I was a brigade commander that time, and there's a regiment of mine which fought at Kargil, 315 Field Regiment, commanded by Colonel Subramaniam. That regiment was to come under my command. I was part of the strike corps, and I gave the first UAV flight from my brigade, which went to Kargil. Later, my brigade was also deployed on the Western Front as part of 12 Corps for an offensive strike with the Strike Corps of Southern Command and the Armored Division. I was with them. And when my regiment started being shed out, till I put a stop, 315, of course, couldn't join me. They were diverted to Kargil Dras sector. They assisted in the fire plan for the capture of Tiger Hill and point 4875, and they won a lot of awards. But we were all deployed as part of the strike corps on the Western Front in case the Kargil conflict was not brought under control, and Mr. Vajpayee would have had to declare war like the 1971. So I'll only say this much, that 527 was a pretty high cost, but notwithstanding that, our troops have demonstrated determination and courage in the face of the enemy. I have no doubt in saying that they were led by excellent battalion commanders that time, if I'm right, like General K.H. Singh, Brigadier Bawa, General Sanjay Kulkarni. They were all top-class frontline leaders who exhibited exemplary leadership. And as they very categorically say, they inspired the troops to continue to fight. And fighting in Kargil was literally what we call as mountain warfare fighting, which we have all done in the Indian Military Academy. I did it 54 years ago. Some of them must have done it a little after what I had done, but it was sheer typical examples of fighting in the mountains. Our troops did exceedingly well, and what was something like a defeat was turned into victory, a la Field Marshal Sir William Slim style in the Burma campaign. On that note, I want to pay a special compliment to Brigadier Bawa for his Veer Chakra, for General Sanjay Kulkarni, a distinguished officer of the Indian Army, as also General Himalaya, and nonetheless Vice Admiral Murli Dharan, a distinguished sailor. So on that note, Amit, I think I'll hand over back to you. There are many lessons. There were mistakes made in Kargil. And,
so we'll come to that.
Brigadier
Sahab, after Ji, we'll come to those things. We'll come to those things because that is one thing, because we'll be documenting this today because this is going to be shared with the policymakers, Defense Ministry, Defense Minister, the PMO, the political dispensation, ruling party leaders, because this is something which the outcome of this today's summit will be like. Now over to you, Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni. Sanjay ji, you know, you are the architect of the highest, paving the way and showing India the way, the world the way to the highest battlefield in the world. What a pleasure to welcome you again. Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, Kargil, your notes, opening remarks from your side.
Amit, thank you very much at the outset, and grateful to Brigadier Apte for what he has said, and to Brigadier Bawa, who was there as one of the panelists, and of course, my dearest friend, General Counsel Himalaya Singh. Now, since I must tell you my own little experiences and background of this, my first exposure to Batalic was in 1982. And that's where I actually saw what is Zubar and what is Kokathang and what is Kaluba. That's where Manoj Pandey got his Veer Chakra. Then I saw exactly where Dras is and what Kargil is and what is Bashko Valley, all of it in 82, because we were the battalion which was to go there in Batalic. And after that, the battalion, having spent some time over there, and as I was part of the advance party, I moved to Turtu. And that's where then my interaction with Siachen started in 83 and then in 84. And I know exactly where General Himalaya was there in 1999, that 0.5770. That's where exactly it is, and how difficult the whole feature is. Extremely, extremely difficult area. I know what it means. When I used to walk on Batalik, there was nothing but rocks, rocks, and rocks.
Sir, mute हो गया. Sanjay ji, mute हो गया.
Yeah.
Nothing but rock. After that, please continue. I think we've lost connection with General Kulkarni. General Kulkarni, are you there? Konsam bhai, please could you start from your end, because General Kulkarni probably will be logging again. So Lieutenant General Konsam Himalaya Singh, this entire Kargil conflict, what was the experience that you've had as a, because I remember you told me you commanded a battalion or something like that in the Kargil. Am I right?
Yeah. Thank you, Amit, for giving me this opportunity, and I pay my respects to my elder, Brigadier Apte, Sanjay Kulkarni, and my friend Brigadier Bawa and Admiral Murli Dharan as well. I was commanding a battalion of the Rajput Regiment in the north of Khardungla. North of Khardungla is generally associated with the Siachen Brigade. Can you hear me? Amit, can you hear me? Okay. So, since I was commanding an infantry battalion, I was not privy to what was going on at the higher levels, except through certain correspondence of intelligence inputs and certain orders that used to come from top. The impression I had as a commanding officer during the period of 1999, beginning in 1999, let's say from March, April, May, that a very critical 3 months prior to the outbreak of the hostilities in Kargil, the impression I got was not very encouraging. Most of the issues that have been put on record, you can find in Kargil Review Committee, which are already in the open domain. But what I felt was that intelligence failure of a very, very big magnitude, and then decision making, of the higher headquarters, and also the our own assessment of the situation at various headquarters left much to be desired in the beginning. These are the, some of the, and also the various preparations in terms of troops and weapons and equipment that also had much to be desired. But as I said earlier, I was very small, unit commander. When I say small, infantry battalion unit commander. So therefore, I don't have much to say about the higher direction of war, starting from, let's say, general division commander and above. But what I saw was not very encouraging from the point of view that it seemed to me that higher commanders were little taken by surprise in the beginning, though they live up to their our expectations much later. So I will just, so that is my opening kind of impression. The good part was that I found that the units, the commanding officers, and the units were extremely motivated with all the with all the deficiencies and their organization and weapons equipment, I would like to quote here when General Malik said, "We will fight," I quote, "we will fight with what we have," unquote. So that speaks a lot about the state of affairs that time. However, as the months passed from May to June, I think there were a series of successes, particularly Tololing, Tiger Hill, and of course, in the areas north of Khardungla, my unit had the biggest success of capturing a 19,000 feet high feature, which was held by the Pakistanis. So therefore, it shows that there is a lot of josh and backing of the unit, backing of the nation. The entire population, the media, the TV, the civilian population, the students, boys and girls. In fact, I had close to 750 letters addressed to me from the boys and girls from places like Gujarat, places like Maharashtra, Gujarat, South, Tamil Nadu, Haryana, North, East, everywhere. So the morale of the nation was very high, and so that also contributed to the morale of our forces. So Amit, these are my opening remarks for a few minutes. We can discuss other issues.
Yeah, I need to really bring you back. I need to really bring you back because we were talking on the national security policy a few days back on a particular show. General Kamula Rao, Lieutenant General K. Rao has joined us. He's one of the very old patrons of the forum. He's been supporting us for the last 2 years. And Rao Saab, namaskar, thank you, Jai Hind, and you always add in extra national fervor to the shows because of the Indian flag, and the backdrop, and and with your charismatic personality, it really looks amazing. The former DG of the Manpower Planning for the military services. I would like to hear it out from Vice Admiral Murli Dharanji. Murli Dharanji, the Navy had probably no role to play in the Kargil conflict, but you also command now on the Naval Academy, if I was correctly informed. The Indian Naval Academy is under your supervision now, right? You're the head of that academy. Okay, so sir, how should India be prepared in the future as far as coastlines? Because Kargil, there are so many people who are speaking. Probably a few remarks from your side for the Kargil conflict, and then take us through your experience about how we are preparing ourselves for the future, because India has got now new areas of concern, not only from the Bangladesh perspective, not only from the Myanmar perspective, not only from the Karachi West Port perspective, but also now from the teardrop nation perspective, Sri Lanka. It's another major development which has happened now. So Vice Admiral Murli Dharanji, over to you.
Thank you, Amit. I have such stalwarts around me who have been on the ground. But as a naval man, let me first put a misconception wrong. While, we correct a misconception, it is incorrect to say that Navy had really no role in Kargil. It is incorrect. Yes, the actual fighting took place in Kargil, but the naval, at the time when it took place, I was commanding a ship. I was commanding a destroyer, and we were deployed at a crucial place across, along with some other units. I can't really disclose what all units were deployed, but Navy was there to go into action at immediate notice. So I was there, actually you could call it the front line at sea. We were there. And as the higher planners in the Navy at that time did, see, one thing you must realize that today, and especially when you are tackling of actions like our immediate neighbors, be it Pakistan or China, are the two major neighbors anybody, it is no longer a single service requirement. It's no longer a single service activity. While actual physical action may take place in a small thing, but I can tell you that they probably knew that the Navy was deployed, probably the Air Force was ready, so that we were ready to escalate to any level at any stage, which itself makes the enemy think twice, and that it got localized to a particular area. And I full hats off to all the the people on the scene there, and especially some of our, younger colleagues who actually, many of them made even the supreme sacrifice. And I think their bravery took Pakistan totally by surprise against all odds they went in. But as far as the Navy is concerned, we were there. It's not a much publicized fact, nor do we, in any case, Navy is known as the silent service. So we go about doing our thing. And that's as far as the Kargil, that part is concerned. But if you say so, one of the things that Navy has done is, what you today need is, now you're not talking of, because the maritime sphere is such, something which is happening within 24 to 30, hours, ships or vessels can move, that many. If you take it, even a ship doing an average speed of 20 knots at sea, in about 24 hours, he's actually crossing 500-600 nautical miles and he can come across. So today we are talking the concept of Indo-Pacific. It is not the Arabian Sea or the Bay of Bengal or the Indian Ocean. We are actually looking at virtually from the west coast of east coast of Africa all the way to the coast of America. That forum, that is where we have, because this is where all the trade going on. And moment you choke the trade, it's almost 90%, in our case, almost 90% by volume or 70% the value comes in by the sea. And the world over, almost 80% of the trade that takes place across the sea, and about 60 to 65% of that happens in our waters, the Indo-Pacific. So this is, and what you need to know is, all times, virtually 24/7, you need to be aware of what is happening, or what we today term as the maritime domain awareness. It's a mix of information that comes in from satellite, ships or aircraft, patrolling, people on the ground, monitoring, etc. And you would know that India has taken the initiative in the Uganda, in Gurugram, we have a, information center, which with so many nations contributing, we're collaborating. There are officers from various nations posted there, through all which we are able to link up and get a picture of what is happening in the maritime domain. Now, it may not be pure immediate hostile, but we have less than war situations happening there. So we learned our lessons from the Bombay Blast, which happened, and then subsequently what happened in Bombay later in 2008, our own equivalent of 9/11, our 26/11 that happened. So we have put together the Navy, the Coast Guard, the Marine, the coastal police stations, everything together. You put in place a thing by which we are monitoring what's happening. And it's a work in progress. With that, I'm sure we will be able to forewarn about it, because one of the things today that you got to be ready is, you got to be 24/7, you got to be ready. You're not sure when it will come, where it will come. But if you are ready, the other person thinks twice before taking you on. You would have noticed there are ships from all the major nations, or the warships, Chinese ships floating around here, all these places. So we need to look at all this. I think I will stop here and say this is something that we learned and we got to keep it going. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Muralidharan, Vice Admiral Muralidharan ji. This is something which would be really very, very helpful to the entire world and the country, to know what was Navy's role, in the Kargil conflict, because people like civil and laymen like us, we were under a misconception about any role played by the Navy. Air Chief Marshal Raha should be joining us in another 20 minutes time from now. General VK, difficult to join today. Let me very, very, very clear. He said he's traveling out of Delhi. But any which ways, let me quickly bring in now Umesh Singh Bawa, the Veer Chakra Vijeta of the Kargil conflict.
Umesh Singh Baba.
Umesh Singh Bawa ji,
Umesh Singh Baba.
Umesh Singh Bawa ji, thank you so much for joining us. And we've
विजय
had
दिवस है ना आज विजय दिवस है ना.
Kukreja ji, request you to mute yourself while the show is going on. Mr. Umesh Singh Bawa, Veer Chakra Vijeta of the Kargil conflict. You've been there in a monologue series with us and explained to us how difficult and how you took up the challenge of leading your battalion to capturing of the particular hill. I don't really remember that, to be very honest. Bawa Sahab, challenges in nutshell, challenges of the Kargil conflict, how people like you, were taken by surprise, and then at the real juncture, how you took steps to motivate your team to go uphill to fight this battle, recapture. There were so many casualties. I remember approximately 30 odd casualties you were telling me about on that particular day. and what are the learnings or the lessons of the Kargil conflict that you would like to suggest to the entire world?
Thank you, Amit, for giving me this chance to talk to this in this august audience. And firstly, I like to start off by saying the first lesson that we have learned is never trust your enemy. See, our Prime Minister, Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, had trusted, the Pakistani Prime Minister, and he was on his mission of building a good friendship between India and Pakistan by undertaking that bus yatra, and other actions were there. But when this was going on, the Pakistani army was infiltrating their troops inside our territory, and they actually stabbed us in our back. We also were thinking that the improvement of relations are taking place, and probably, things are going well between India and Pakistan. But we were taken by surprise. So never trust your enemy, even if he says that I'm your friend. First and foremost lesson is that. Second is never underestimate your enemy. We thought that, during the winter seasons, we used to vacate our post from there. Similarly, Pakistan also used to do that. And we thought, he will never, send forces, regular forces, to come and occupy the heights. All what we thought was he will send some mujahideens or militants to infiltrate along the nalas and create some problem for us. But he did just the opposite. Since we always, thought that he will send some infiltrators along the nalas, we used to patrol the nalas around the Mashko Valley and Daraz area and never went on the top, thinking that he will never come to the top because he cannot sustain his troops if he comes to the top. But he surprised us completely. He did not infiltrate. He occupied all those heights which were left unoccupied, and he was able to dominate the National Highway 1 Delta. So we underestimated the Pakistanis. But again, from the Pakistani side, when they occupied these areas, they underestimated the Indian reaction. They perhaps thought that it is very difficult to clear anybody from those high mountains of Mashko and Daraz. Therefore, what India will do maximum is come on negotiating table and ask us to withdraw. And that is the time I think the Pakistanis had decided that we'll ask them to vacate Sechin Glacier, and then we will vacate from these heights. But our Indian Army's reaction was, unimaginable. We used all our forces, all our firepower, even the Air Force, to evict the enemy. So never underestimate the enemy means even the Pakistanis underestimated us, and we also underestimated them. So these are my opening remarks, Amit, and I'll give my other opinions as we go further. Thank you.
Thank you, Veer Chakra Vijeta, Umesh Singh Babaji. Thank you so much. We would love to know from you more as we move along. General K. Rao, one of the fantastic speakers and no holds barred. Learnings of Kargil. Unmute yourself. General Saab, unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, thanks. Some may be repetitive because of overlaps, they will be there. I'll try and be as short as I can. Firstly, of course, I entirely agree with Himalaya on this issue of intelligence failure. There is no denial. Certainly, people have failed. The intelligence failure has failed, and for that matter, even the junior leadership of the people holding on to the various posts at that place have failed, because a good commanding officer, I'm sure, would have got some wind of what's happening around, irrespective of the fact that you had to denude those posts during winters. So certainly the failures cannot be overlooked. One. But there, of course, that is the biggest blunder actually. But the way we have reacted, I think, is something very, very commendable. The best of the junior leaderships has been seen. The Indian grit and valor was very, very evident. And it was not easy a task, because I fought Kargil operations in 1971. And in those days, with even shortage of equipment, even to capture a point 13,620, which is again one of the highest peaks in those days, overlooking the entire 121 infantry brigade itself, was a Herculean task. So fighting in high altitude mountains is very, very difficult. To that extent, we must pat ourselves on the back that we got ever trained. Our troops are always very well trained. A lot of troops were moved in from various places, and the way they acclimatized themselves and were ready to fight and fought is something extremely creditable. Now, one of the important lessons I think what possibly which you haven't learned.
Just a very small intervention, sir. Justice K.G. Balakrishnan, former Chief Justice of India, who probably has been a part of your shows with us along with you. He just called me and he said he'll be joining from the midst of a meeting, physical meeting. He just come out to just wish all of us, including people like you. So I would pray to you to kindly hold for just a couple of minutes. Justice K.G. Balakrishnan, I need to bring him because he'll have to leave, sir. Former Chief Justice of India, Justice K.G. Balakrishnan. Jai Hind, sir. Namaskar.
Namaste.
So these are all greats of the army. Lieutenant General K. Rao, Veer Chakra Vijeta Umesh Singh Bawa, Lieutenant General Consul Himalaya Singh, Vice Admiral Muralidharanji, Chief of the Navy, and Brigadier Ajit Apte, whom you probably know by now very well. Justice Saab, thank you so much for joining on Kargil Diwas, the Vijay Diwas. India won the war against Pakistan. Sir, any 2 minutes of your, good wishes, motivation.
Okay. My salute to all the great soldiers who won the war in Kargil, and this occasion for rejoicement. And we remember the great contribution done by the stalwarts of the army and the soldiers who were bottom of who helped our country. And I am sure our country will continue to soar high and high because of the help of our army, which is, I would rate, one of the best in the world. That is what we can say. And I take this opportunity to congratulate them. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm sure the army generals, people who commanded the battalions, the army, people of the level of Vice Admiral Muralidharan and General K. Rao, all Brigadier Apte, Captain Himalaya Singh, Veer Singh Umesh Singh Bawaji, all these gentlemen will take your presence today so kindly, because the judiciary is fighting battles internally in the country almost every day. And leading the path for so many reforms and wars within the country. So thank you so much, sir. Look forward to meeting you again.
Thank you
so much, sir.
Thank you.
General K. Rao, you were talking about. Please continue, sir. Sorry for interrupting.
Thank you.
Not at all. Thank you for joining us, sir. Yeah, coming back to this. So certainly the failures cannot be forgotten on end failure, as well as certain command failures of people holding on to those posts. But however, I think what we need to this thing is that there are a lot of lessons which have come out in terms of the individual valor, the junior leadership. And yet I think there's one more lesson which possibly has not still taken off. The way I look at it is the issue of delegation. I fear that possibly that element of delegation which we talk about in various academies and in theory, possibly has not yet gone into practice in many of the places. I'm not saying there is across, but certainly delegation is one which requires to be looked at. Yes, we need to be very proud of the fact that we are ever ready. The greatest lesson learned was that our troops were ever ready. People were brought from various locations and at very short notices. Yes, there have been one of a few casualties who have got, of course, cleared by the courts also later, when people were tried to be pushed into the battle at a very short notice with a lesser preparation, with lesser time for recce and other things, like my own coastmate, whom I'm very proud of, who has done extremely well. Brigadier Devinder Singh was there at Kargil when he was pushed into the battle at a very short notice. I think he stood his ground and said, I require my 72 hours of recce and other things. Of course, he became a victim initially, but I think he got totally exonerated later by the courts. But these are the lessons which happen, that people do stand by what they feel is the correct strategy, concept, or even tactics and command responsibilities. Yes, our reactions have been extremely good. And the most important thing is that with the lesson we have learned, and I hope that lesson is being carried, I'm sure Himalayan people will, others will tell me. Unfortunately, we as a country, I think, have got a little skewed, thinking more towards insurgency, counterinsurgency, because we're not really been having a conventional war. And I think that has taken away a large amount of battlemanship, I feel, for Indian armed forces, because I can quote things like Sri Lanka, when there was too much of a gap. Firstly, war is an unwanted curse. Nobody wants to have wars. But as a good soldier, one needs to be in touch with war. So by going to counterinsurgency, people have got into a different type of warfare. The conventional warfare, to some extent, although we practice, possibly we've been out of touch. But this Kargil has brought that issue back. Like, for example, I always felt that as a gunner and infantry were really bed partners. Once the war starts, before the war starts, I think we are thick of the friends. A company commander and OP officer, or a battalion commander and a battery commander were thick of the friends. But this counterinsurgency possibly has, we have lost out that sort of camaraderie, because it's only in war when you fight together, you really have the camaraderie, right? So to that extent, I think Kargil war has brought the place of gunners back. Bofors came into fore. Bofors, of course, we went into a scam. As a nation, that's a different matter. But gun per se, Bofors proved its mettle. For that matter, Bofors is the gun which has really made a huge difference in the entire Kargil conflict of 1999. Volumes can be written and talked about the use of artillery. We as gunners have certainly learned a lot, although we have fought the 1971 war in Kargil, and even in those days we used to talk about, it's not the question of number of guns. It is the question of ammunition, which is precisely can be targeted onto bunkers. So I think that way Kargil 1999 has been a great experience, and it has certainly brought back a lot of armed forces officers back into the actual conventional battle, which was, I suppose, was being a little forgotten, or maybe may not be forgotten, but maybe overlooked because of our skewed participation into counterinsurgency. Well, that's all I have to say about Kargil. Otherwise, I think there are so many lessons one can keep on talking about.
Brigadier Apte, you have been
it is like Air Force. Air Force employment is also one. Yeah.
Brigadier Ajit Apte, you've been an avid speaker on the 1971 Bangladesh war, just like General K. Rao. But you were part of that war also, along with our veterans like General Vijay, then Lieutenant General Vishnu Chaturvedi, Sena medal winner. So these are the people. Then we also had Mukesh Khetrapal's brother Arun Khetrapal ji. I think he was also part of the 71 war. Fantastic leaders we've had on the forum. After Saab, how do you compare India's preparedness for 71 vis-a-vis 99?
See, Amit, 71 war gave a lot of battle indicators right from December 1970, when the Pakistan elections failed. So the trouble had started growing right from January, went into February. There was the hijacking of the Indian Airlines plane in January 71. In fact, General K.R. Rao, myself, we are postmates. He mentioned about Brigadier Devinder, General V.K. We were all just either finishing our young officers course, or we were just reporting to our units. So the mobilization and the intelligence gathering was in a different manner. And a lot of reports had already started coming in. And therefore, the preparation, the planning, and I don't want to repeat, but Field Marshal Manekshaw took a stand that the Indian Armed Forces are not ready to be deployed. So these things happened. The preparation was very deliberate. And as Admiral Muralidharan mentioned, the Army, Navy, and the Air Force were strategically deployed right March onward. In fact, the Navy had also done their deployment drills. The Air Force had done. We were, of course, already mobilizing forces in 71, switching from east to west, intra-sector, inter-sector, everything was done. What General Rao mentioned is a very, very important point. Unfortunately, we in the country have got overwhelmed with the counterinsurgency operations or, looking at other pinpricks and probably have relegated the responsibility of a regular conventional war, which could, hinge onto the thresholds of a nuclear conflict. Because in today's scenario, nuclear option is a deterrence. I remember in 99, when the Kargil war started, I was part of a strike corps. My brigade was mobilized with the armored brigade in 96 hours, and we reached Longewala, where exactly your movie Border was fought with 45 brigade. I know all that area, and we were all deployed. And let me tell you, we were also given a warning that nuclear kit for a 1 kiloton yield bomb that Musharraf may drop, because had we broken the barrier and gone in, if Mr. Vajpayee had declared war. And that is exactly what Brigadier Bawa's point is very, very important. We need to know our own resources, own troops. We need to know our own intent, and we also need to know what the enemy can do. And therefore, in 99, it was not so. And Brigadier Bawa brought out some very valid points. We underestimated the enemy, and there were many, many drawbacks. Intelligence was one failure. I'm sorry to say, but I have come to know, I think General Himalaya has already brought it out, or Brigadier Bawa. There were battalions which did not carry out the complete patrolling. There were gaps in the patrolling. I have met officers who are grade 1 and grade 2 staff officers in the divisional headquarters. I have also known of the brigade which was holding there. I've met today a postmate of mine who took over that sector. There were a lot of gaps. And therefore, it was an intelligence, I won't say, but it was an intelligence failure. And our preparation in 99 was unfortunately not enough. We had got misled by counterinsurgency operations. We had been misled. And that is why probably the Pakistanis took advantage. Definitely the mobilization plans, the preparations in 71 were well done. In 99, probably the higher commanders, as General K.H. Singh has brought out very correctly, there's been a big, big failure right from the army commander level down. I am not hesitating in saying that. We had the army commanders switching over between Southern Command and Northern Command at that time. So it was a command failure starting right from the GOC&C's level down to the corps commanders, divisional commanders, and even some of the brigade commanders. I think one of the brigade commanders, Brigadier Surinder Singh, tried to put across some points, but a lot of it has come out in open flak. So I'll just say simply to answer your questions, 71 was a different ball game. The whole country knew what was happening, and we were preparing for it. And that is how we could even meet the challenge that had China opened the front, what we will do. So I think 71, assessment of the situation, situational reports, intelligence reports, build up, switching of forces was much better. However, in 99, let me also bring out one point. I'm sure General Rao will agree with me. We both are gunners. And I have mentioned this point to General Lakhvinder. We could concentrate artillery en masse, especially the Bofors. And I had a Bofors regiment under me. It was done because all artillery was concentrated. But if the war had been declared on the entire front, as Admiral Muralidharan brought out, even I was deployed. We were all given orders to, break the barrier, that electric fence, and blast through with the armored brigade and the artillery brigade. I don't think so much of artillery would have been concentrated just for fighting the battles at Kargil. Also the ammunition dumping, also the war wastage reserves have to be taken into consideration for what prolonged period can a war be fought. So all this I don't think was planned for the Kargil conflict. I also know some of the brigade commanders who said we'll throw these guys out within 10 days and everything will be stabilized, but that did not happen. So similar to what happened in the Himalayan blunder in 1962, unfortunately unfolded to some magnitude in 1999. And that is what my major point is. Otherwise, I agree. Outstanding leadership, junior leadership, absolutely top class. We have to give all our youngsters, and when I say youngsters, right from the battalion commanders who are here today in front of us, I think they deserve full credit. I know of one regiment, 315 Field, where Captain Gildyal, who that regiment was under my command, but fighting in Kargil, Captain Gildyal's company commander was killed in action. I think it was Manoj Pandey, I'm not too sure. But Gildyal, being a gunner officer, led the attack, captured the picket at 16,000. When he was asked to go ahead another 2,000, he did that. And rightly so, Gildyal earned the Veer Chakra. Our artillery regiment won 1 YSM, 5 Veer Chakras, and a number of Sena medals gallantry. So I think that speaks for what General Rao said. We are hand in glove, the artillery and the infantry. Of course, there was no question of the armor or the mechanized warfare there. But I think the artillery played a major dominant role, which I'm sure the infantry officers here will agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Brigadier Saab. Ajit Apte ji, let me quickly ask a few things. One, Brigadier Bawa, the role of the Air Force, the delay in the deployment or the gaps in the Air Force, preparedness or deployment or reaching the war front because you people really needed air support. Would you like to throw some light on that?
Yeah, you see, I feel, during the Kargil war, there was lack of inter-services coordination. You see, the first request to the Air Force was made by Deputy, this Vice Chief, on 9th of June. But everything got dilly-dallied, they said, it will escalate the situation and all those things, were going on in the ops rooms at Delhi. And finally, the Air Force came into action only on 26th of June. A gap of 17 days, we lost, which is, due to this, lot of casualties we suffered, Had we, bought Air Force, on board right from the beginning, I don't think we would have lost so many men. Air Force would have, joined us right from the beginning. And that is one way, lack of inter-service coordination, I felt, was the main reason why the Air Force, got delayed. They had their own way of thinking, but they did not realize what the Indian Army was wanting. So now, hopefully, when we get these theater commands, this problem probably will get resolved in the next future war, if we have any.
Northeast, Brigadier Bawa, thank you so much. People would not like to answer these kind of questions because... Yes, General Rao. Yes, General Rao, please.
With all respect to Brigadier Bawa, my small additional point which I have is it's not so much to do with their not unwillingness. I think the delay was more because of decision making. The Air Force, I think, was ready as I know it because I was at a place possibly one could understand what was happening around. I think there was more of a decision making problem which was there in dry service, as Brigadier Bawa has rightly said, possibly with the theaterization of commands, this decision making, the decision making process itself will be short and we would not lose some time. And I know a lot of things came in. Once the air comes in, will it escalate the war? Will it go along all the borders? Will you cross the IB? There are a lot of issues. But yes, it was not such a complex decision as we felt it, but be the powers that it may, it looked to be a complex decision, and that's how I think it has taken that long. But it's not for want of any clear-cut okay from Air Force or something. I'm privy to certain things. That's all I have to add.
Decision making definitely was one thing that we all probably understand. Probably more to it than what we keep hearing. General K. Rao, General K.S. Singh, Consul Himalaya Singh, Northeast. Probably the terrains have a lot of similarities between the two, the Kargil and the probably the Northeast terrains. China is lurking all over. Then we have a very, very destabilized and fueled up Burma, Myanmar, Northeast, then BSF. Also throw some light, Bangladesh, also throw some light on the role of the paramilitary forces. Intelligence failure, it is something which we've started to live with. But what about paramilitary forces' roles, and how prepared should we? What are the steps, or probably the preemptive steps that India should be taking so as to not face another Kargil from Adoklam or from the Myanmar regions? Bangladesh probably a little stabilized as of now.
Okay, Amit, is like this. As far as Bangladesh and Myanmar are concerned, I really don't think that we should consider these two countries as a big threat to India in terms of military issues. However, certain what we normally term as non-state actors, in terms of geopolitics, the involvement of China in Myanmar and Bangladesh do pose some kind of a long-term threat to India in terms of national security. But when we talk about a Kargil type of operation by them, definitely that can be ruled out as of now. I mean, kinetic way of fighting that can be ruled out in the near foreseeable future. As far as China is concerned, in the Arunachal and Sikkim area, I really don't think that they can do a Doklam or they can do a Kargil in our borders, because the Indian Army is reasonably well prepared. And also Indian, not only Army, the Air Force, and even Navy in the Bay of Bengal. So therefore, I really doubt as far as Chinese, capability to do a Kargil. Having said that, because Kargil is not a full-fledged kind of a war. It is, sort of full-fledged, all-out war. So that kind of a thing, even if China do attempt, I don't think they will succeed in the eastern sector. Details will be known to all my, General Rao and everybody present here. So I think that is my answer, very short answer to your question. As far as the paramilitary or Central Armed Police Force is concerned, they are involved in the border management. That Central Armed Police Force, Bangladesh border is manned. I mean, border management is a different ballgame together. It is not a border defense of India. So border management in Bangladesh border with the BSF, Myanmar border with the Assam Rifles, and Indo-Tibetan Border Police in the Arunachal borders.
And the SSB in the Nepal region.
And SSB with the
Nepal region.
Bhutan as well as Nepal borders. But they are in times of hostilities, almost all of them will hopefully come under command of the army, the military.
Operational control of them.
Operational control. So that, therefore, I think we are, is not to say that, we can relax as far as China is concerned, but the efforts are on, it's an ongoing process. But as of today, I don't think China neither has the ability to do a Kargil. And if they do that, we have the ability to actually face it with
Okay. General Consam bhai, thank you for the second answer. We probably got 15 more minutes to go in the show, 10 to 15 more minutes in the show. Air Chief Marshal Raj should join us. He is just confirmed. But let me quickly bring back Vice Admiral Muralidharan ji. 7,200 kilometers approximately, because over the last 18-20 months, lot of naval training we've received from your probably boss Admiral Robin Dhawan. A lot of training he's given to us, policy papers, so many things. He's been a great resource, great man. And also Admiral Sunil Lamba. Admiral Muralidharan, such a huge coastline, such a huge borderline. Pakistan has already tried its hands through India's financial capital, 2611. We are well guarded there now in terms of a lot of technical improvements having taken place. But how well prepared with the Chinese incursion in the seas all around India? They're trying to capture the seas, the South China Sea, the Bay of Bengal region. They reached Sri Lanka. They've captured the port there. What do you think, and how do you think, how well prepared are we? And what are your suggestions from the government to the government for India's safety and security? Because now we have a very, very destabilized Sri Lanka as well.
Thank you. As I mentioned briefly in my opening remarks, at sea, the maritime area is totally linked. You cannot draw lines or build bridges across. Now, as far as coastline is concerned, two incidents that took place. One was the 93 Bombay Blast, and subsequently in 2008 when we had the attack that was coming in. Again, it is partly due to the intelligence failure, or we could not, we did not assess the intelligence input that was coming to us, which is probably not the way that it wanted. And they came in from a captured fishing boat, as Indian fishermen returning from all over the place. And our fishermen go all across traditionally and otherwise. Sometimes we tell them not to cross the border. They tell us, look, we have been doing this for thousands of years. But now suddenly you draw an artificial maritime boundary and then say, don't go. So they don't do that. They go where the catch is. So when they come under that guise, anybody can come in. But with these two incidents, in fact, after the 93, we had started putting patrolling in place, etc., to monitor things. Before that could fully implemented, this 2008 happened. There were parliamentary committees, high-powered committees. A lot of discussion that activity that we have initiated is, now there are radars across the coastline which can monitor what's happening. There are the coastal police. There is regular patrolling by the Coast Guard and the Navy that takes place all over. Our maritime patrol aircraft, both from the Coast Navy and the Coast Guard, fly in these areas. But beyond that, now we are actually looking at the entire Indo-Pacific as one area from where threats could develop at any time. Whether it could not be a direct, it could be prevention of, say, some of your critical cargo coming in. If those ships get blocked somewhere, you need to be there. And Navy has also started what is called as a mission-based deployment. Ships are being deployed. It is not purely, exercising of our coast, which happens, but you are deploying them all over the Indo-Pacific. We are doing regular exercises with friendly nations. And there are two major initiatives that was launched by the Prime Minister's time at the Shangri-La Dialogue 2018. He brought out that to keep Indo-Pacific open. We have had the Quad between the four nations, Australia, India, Japan, and US. Virtually, we are on the four corners of the Indo-Pacific, working together. While it is not, it's still a work in progress. It is not a security organization where we are trying to put, but we are working together. That knows people in place. And more importantly, India has also started the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative in 2019, which was at the, I think it is the ARF. After that, they announced, the Prime Minister announced it, where we have 6 or 7 of these various multiple heads. Now, offhand, I don't remember, I have to see somewhere. But there are things in which there are things like maritime security. Then you have the looking after of your assets. And all these are non-treaty based, but link up with ships. Now, countries like Australia, Japan, Vietnam, many of these countries have come forward to interact. So essentially, you are getting domain awareness of the entire maritime domain, which I mentioned to you through the Gurugram. It happens, and we also links up with the others, and which is not only to tackle enemies but also tackling things like piracy, illegal migration of people coming in, all that with that regular patrolling. Now, if you talked of China, we have in the both of the Malacca Straits, either side we are having our monitoring, patrolling. We have our forces deployed at various places. We have tie up with various island nations whom we are helping building up the thing. All this together, we are able to get a complete picture, including the underwater domain awareness we are looking at. So with all this together, we'll always be prepared. But like I said, it's a very vast canvas. So you have to keep monitoring your intelligence assessment, have a check on it straight away before you get anything else. So once you find that you are ready, like you said, like China, for example, has been building virtually, the Belt and Road Initiative or through the sea links all our neighborhood. So which means we got to be extra careful. If tomorrow they have, while all these nations say right now it's not for basics, more for trade and this thing, but it can always be used. So we need to, and the Chinese Navy itself is developing in a major way. It's now, by some count, they got more number of ships than the US Navy has got. And by their own published white papers, which they claim they want to be by, within 100th centenary of the revolution taking place and the new China coming in, they want to be there. Now they're trying to make their headway into the Pacific Islands, which means all these places we are good old. It's like a base and support facilities. So we are interacting with all our countries. We are keeping our this thing. So we also have developing an overall picture with our forces deployed at various places so that we could move in at short notice. But it's a very vast canvas, and the priorities that are there. And as you know, our nation itself has got many other priorities, and we are now trying to. The Navy had gone in for a big way for the indigenization long back. And in 61, we had an aircraft carrier Navy, which not very many nations in the Asia had at that stage. China did not have one. So we were thinking of that. If you read the discussions in Parliament that took place in the 50s and 40s, Jawaharlal Nehru and many others have said that, you need a maritime presence all over the place so that you can safeguard your other thing. If you go back at Indian history, till the time we were controlling the seas, we were a major power economically and otherwise. Somehow around the 14th, 15th century, we started neglecting the sea, focused on it. That is when the Europeans and everybody else moved in, and eventually the colonization took place. So maritime front is something which we cannot afford to ignore, and we are developing awareness of that, which will allow us to tackle. I don't want to get into the details of theater commands, maritime commands. That's a little more technical, and we only know what's the pub. We are all been out of uniform for long. We are not really aware of, unless only the unpublished data, the unclassified data which comes out of the media is known to us. But the basic is Navy needs to be. We need to have domain awareness both on surface, underwater, and there. If you have that, and once you get an input, quickly analyze what you need to do. I think you are in place. Thank you.
We will also be closing the show with closing remarks with some inputs for the national security policy, which is being contemplated, if my knowledge is correct. And then, yes, Navy's role. Thank you for outlining the current developments and the preparedness of the Navy from India's security perspective, because of the 70-75% coastline that India has, huge coastline, the peninsula has. And then we also have got two islands, the Lakshadweep and the Andaman Nicobar Islands. One of them, obviously, the Lieutenant Governor over there is a very, very well prepared man, Lieutenant General D.K. Joshi, Admiral D.K. Joshi. He is the LG in Andaman and Nicobar. So we have the islands in good hands. Now I take it forward for the closing remarks from all of you. Some inputs also from the Agnipath perspective, from the Make in India perspective, because Agnipath complete change in guard with respect to recruitment, And then when we talk about Make in India, a huge shift from the procurement policy perspective, wherein India has had such huge black history in terms of being marred with corruption when it comes to procuring war materials, defense materials from abroad, because of the various scams that have riddled those kind of procurements. Now I start the closing remarks from KH Singh, Lieutenant General Consam Himalaya Singh, security, national security policy, and then intelligence failures. This has been a cause of concern all over across each and every issue, including Pulwama, which we were discussing yesterday with the former DGP of Jammu and Kashmir, where intelligence collusion and failure was one of the major reasons attributed to such a ghastly, ghastly failure and a shame that we had to face. So please throw some light on security, procurement, Agnipath, and intelligence in your closing remarks.
To begin with, I like to compliment the government of India as far as the Atma Nirbhar campaign is concerned. I mean, this is something which is really, I mean, India's rise to power will be on this alone. On this, one of the major factors will be this Atma Nirbhar. Having said that, the quality checks and what the armed forces require, that kind of a effective and quality weapon systems and other equipment, that has to be ensured. Without that, Atmanirbhar will have no meaning as far as the military is concerned. That is one. And the initiative regarding Agnipath is well understood by everybody. We have even through some right forums, we have suggested better. We have suggested some ways to make it still better, because there were some reservations about various issues of regimentation and group cohesiveness and representatives from various parts of the country and all that. That is, I think, and they have assured that it will be addressed. It's not a cast in stone. Thirdly, mentioning about the higher defense organization, this is something that which needs to be addressed as early as possible. If the people, bureaucrats who earlier were dealing with fisheries or textiles, they cannot be handling defense. Today's defense and the next day. So this kind of I will strongly recommend that let there be some specialized group of people, even amongst the bureaucrats, who would have at least some idea about defense and security matters. That would be my recommendation. And lastly, I'll again say that we have to have inter-services jointness. I'm told that theater commands are coming, but then I will support more jointness in whatever form it is. So with these words, I would thank you once again, and happy Kargil Day, Kargil Vijay Diwas to all my seniors and colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, General K. Singh. General K. Rao, your closing remarks, sir. Please kindly consider all the 4 issues requested.
I think 2 issues have already got covered enough by Himalaya. Agnipath requires certainly a focus in a right earnest. It's not the best in the present form. And as the government has rightly said, that there are a certain number of changes which are taking place to that scheme. And I'm sure that scheme will find it attractive, provided the changes are put in place. Now, as far as the defense preparedness is concerned, or the equipment improvement or Atmanirbhar, I think this is an excellent step. The Navy was always ahead of the other 2 armed forces as far as the self-reliance is concerned, right from their architectural design and other things. I think they started in a different way, and that's why they are way ahead. I must compliment the Navy. There is a lot to learn from them, and Army and Air Force, I think, have started in that direction. And as far as self-reliance is concerned, the push which has been given, let's be honest to our predecessors also, that possibly as far as the uniform people are concerned, everyone right from day one is very keen on having Indian-made goods, Indian-made equipment, Indian-made vehicles, Indian-made guns. But unfortunately, we had our own problems of technology not being available, or over-dependency on other nations. Our own technological base, whether in terms of DRDO and others, or even a private industry, did not take off. So I think whole thing has been set in motion by our great leader Narendra Modi ji, because he's given it the right push to say that we need to hold hands of a lot of this private industry as well as defense. And certain times that push which is required has got to be given. And I think he has given the impetus by ensuring that once a decision has been taken, is got to be given the wherewithal and is got to be pushed with a single-minded drive. And I must compliment him for that. And I think we're already moving ahead in a pretty fast way. We're going to do wonders. And I know of like artillery guns already. Dhanush is already made by the gun carriage factory. Bharat Forge is already on. Then you got L&T, you got your Tata Motors. There are a lot of players who are coming to the field. The defense manufacture part of it, Atmanirbharta, is certainly going in a very, very commendable fashion. Now, as far as the security is concerned, the only point I could say, possibly suggest, is there are certain bodies which we have, like National Security Council. They must be given the strength and not individual based. I mean it when I say very categorically. To have power centers in terms of, let's say, a national NSA is, I think that is fraught with danger. We need to have certain forums and certain groups where there is a collective wisdom. And for that collective wisdom, it is important to have difference of opinion. That possibly is an issue which must be addressed by the government, because one gets a feeling as a layman outside that are we going on one particular path by saying yes men, or trying to put too much of power vested in only NSA. So National Security Council and other groups of collective wisdom, collective professionals must be standardized as bodies which can certainly give the right advice. That's what I have for the national security is concerned, rather than depending upon one or two individuals. Yes, they may be brilliant. I'm not saying no. But I think that is fraught with danger, because you're reposing the entire faith, your entire dependency on one person. Thank you.
I can have Umesh Singh Babaji's closing remarks now.
I think most of the points have been covered by General Rao and General K.H. Singh, and they have aptly covered everything, very nicely. So I would only like to add one point towards Agnipath is, I just want that regimentation of the infantry battalions should not be touched by the Agnipath scheme. Secondly, 4 years of service, suppose there is a war with the China and Pakistan or Pakistan, 4 years service is too less a service, to push them into war, especially when they know their future is not secure. I don't think they will be able to give their best, during the war. So we need to think on these lines. I mean, otherwise the Agnipath scheme is good, that we will get, after 4 years, the selected 25%, the best 25% with us. But what happens, if there's a war and when he's just 2 to 3 years service, I don't think he will be able to give his best to the country. Thank you.
Okay, I mean, these views, we had a show on which you were also there on Agnipath and Agniveers. Anyways, final closing remarks from Brigadier Ajit Apte as always, he opens and closes for us.
Thank you, Amit. I think you made me like Sunil Gavaskar carrying the bat throughout the innings. I don't think I'm in his caliber, but yes, I'll do it. As Brigadier Baba has said very correctly.
Let me, just, for the sake of the participants and the audience who are going to be hearing this post the show, Gavaskar is no match for you. You are somebody who's had the pleasure of shaming the likes of Imran Khan and Viv Richards as well, and somebody who's credited with also making Sharmila Tagore run for cover. So your anecdotes, your achievements are unparalleled.
Thank you, Amit. I am indeed flattered and honored, but that all happened while in NDA, which was about 56 years ago. But anyway, so now everyone has covered all the points, but one or two points, I'll start from Agnipath backwards. Brigadier Baba has brought out a point. There's a lot of water which has flown under the bridge regarding Agnipath, Agniveer, whatever you want to call them. I'll just highlight one point. In the 71 war, we've had short service commissioned officers, and in those days, SS commission was only 5 years. And I have seen officers in battle. General Rao will bear with me because we both were in war. Short service commissioned officers have performed brilliantly. I have known of an officer who has got a Mahavir Chakra. He is a short service commissioned officer, 8th Battalion, the Guards, Brigade of the Guards, and he led 50 meters ahead of his own platoon. So I do not totally agree that a short service commissioned officer or a person with 4 years service, if war breaks out, I'm pretty sure he will give his best. And I have commanded a regiment with SS officers. I have commanded a brigade with a lot of SS officers. Of course, by then they had got their PRC. But in 71, I've seen short service commissioned officers perform brilliantly. However, that's a different ball game. Here there are recruits with 4 years service, and they don't know whether they'll be selected. So I'm sure the government will give a time and test trial before they realize whether they should have 4 years, 7 years, 15 years, whatever it is. But I do know that once a government policy is rolled out, it is difficult to roll it back unless there's a good feedback. So we leave Agnipath, Agniveer for a strategic decision by the government. Now, the other point is Atmanirbhar. What General Rao says is absolutely correct. In fact, I was the Brigadier General Staff at the School of Artillery, and a lot of trials have gone through me. In fact, General Rao and I worked on a number of trials. And later, I also had the opportunity of interacting with Bharat Forge. And I was on the committee here out of the veteran gunners who was called along with General Shekatkar and some other people. And I've seen all these guns, including the ATAGs and the various other models which are coming in. And I will not repeat what General Rao said, but there is enough scope for us to accelerate our pace and decrease our dependency on outside nations to either get the ammunition or the guns. And similarly, it should also happen with all other departments of the artillery, armored corps, and the infantry, and even others. Now, an important point is, I attended the discussion here about 4 years ago, before the pandemic started, on what is called the Olive Green Pages, which is conducted by the MGO. And I happened to be invited for that, and I participated. So I do agree with General Rao that we need to accelerate this. In fact, even with the DRDO and other people. So that is important. Number 2 point. Number 3 is
Brigadier Saab, you are always closing. So probably you have got a couple of more points and 2 more minutes to go before you close. But then in the meantime, this is the Kargil show. The Air Force got deployed late. Herein we have the Air Chief Marshal who's joined us towards the former Air Chief Marshal has also joined us towards the fag end of the show. But the Kargil war is still on Air Chief Marshal Raha. So we needed the Air Force to come and, land the final blows. And here you are, Babaji. I have not delayed the thing like it happened during your time in the war front. We have got the Air Force in time. Air Chief Marshal Raha. Kargil, 4 issues. Finally, we are closing with, probably you need to close this, and then Brigadier Ajit Apte, our greatest friend, will be closing the show. He was closing the show, but then, I have to bring you in before he closes it finally. Intelligence failures, procurement issues, Atmanirbhar Bharat and all that. Intelligence failures, procurement issues, then we also are talking about, in fact, there are many other issues like Agnipath, which have also really come and changed the face of the entire services recruitment. So these are issues which I would like you to just touch upon before we understand that things like Kargil, if they happen again, from any of the coastal regions, 70% of India is coastal. And then we have the northeastern region, which is all, very, very in a big danger because of the instability in the Chinese region, the Myanmar region. And now we also have a very, very destabilized Sri Lanka. So the Air Chief Marshal, the former Chief of the Air Forces, is on board. Your views on Kargil, and then we take it over for the closing remarks. So Ajit, aapke.
Thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I got delayed. Hence, I joined the platform late. I have only a few points about the Kargil conflict. There are many lessons that Air Force as well as the armed forces have learned from this conflict. I think the first and the foremost lesson, I'm sure it has been brought out already, since I didn't hear all the speakers, is intelligence, inadequate intelligence, not knowing exactly what is happening, what the plans are of the adversary, etc. And this refrain has been there right from the beginning in all the conflicts. Kargil was very much evident. Even Galwan skirmish in Ladakh as another instance. So what we require is intelligence from space-based assets, large number of satellites which would give you 24/7 coverage of the area of interest, especially the tactical battle area. So I think that is one area the armed forces need to work very hard so that we have this intelligence gathering around the clock, especially in the area of interest. So that will obviate the problem of not having adequate intelligence about the movements of the adversary and the intentions. That's the first point that I remember. During the Kargil war, I was not there in India as a defense attaché in Kyiv, Ukraine, in 1999, when this conflict broke out. I was actually trying to get hold of all the beyond visual range missiles for the MiG-29 aircraft, various other weapons for the Indian Air Force from Ukraine. You see, Ukraine and Russia, they are very interdependent as far as military-industrial complex is concerned. So I was involved in getting hold of all these weapon systems for the conflict. And I remember my squadron, the MiG-29 that I used to fly, they are deployed in this conflict up there in that sector, be it Srinagar, Avantipur, as well as Leh. So the MiG-29s are providing air defense of the tactical battle area, and they are armed with beyond visual range missile radar combination, which is far superior to the Pakistani Air Force F-16, and they did not have the AMRAAM, which they possess now. And they did score over us with that AMRAAM recent skirmish in Balakot and subsequent engagement. But during that time, the F-16s of the Pakistani Air Force with inferior missile did not show up within at least, they remain at least 30 kilometers away from the TBA. So, because they're really scared of the Indian Air Force's capability in shooting them down from beyond visual range. So that is the second thing. Third thing is, though I believe there is some problem about the Air Force getting onto the scene well in time, but that is that I would not comment upon because I was not there personally and I do not really know. But one thing for the sure that Indian Air Force learned, besides intelligence requirements, and of course, having the right kind of missiles, etc. The greatest lesson the Indian Air Force learned was that we never practiced or had the opportunity of practicing weapon releases from very high altitudes. You know, somebody is talking all the time at the back. Very distracting.
Himalay, put your mic on mute. Just hold on, Anup. Just 1 minute. Himalay. Thank you, Himalay. Okay, carry on, please.
Thank you. So what I would like to say that Indian Air Force was really not prepared in terms of weapon delivery at those altitudes. You know, Kargil heights anything between, I think, 12 to 18,000 feet. And releasing those weapons, you know, rockets, bombs, etc., especially free fall weapons, whose trajectory and the flight dynamics, ballistics are so different at those altitudes. So I think the Air Force was at fault for not having seen such a contingency where you have to open, release weapons, especially free fall weapons and non-directed, I would say, weapons in attacking targets. And in the mountains, you know, the target, you miss it by even 1 meter because of the, hills and valleys and dead ground. The 1 meter may mean 500 meters loss of. Sorry. So that is one thing. And, you know, we lost. So thereafter, we came to know how to release weapons, including PGMs at those altitudes. And I think a great lot of innovation was done by the Mirage fleet, which with help of